Yeah. Okay. It should. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Voices Randomish. I'm Eldridge Alexander, and tonight is a special night for us. It's Movember, and I'm here as always with my sister, and she is
Winters.
And tonight we actually have a guest with us, Dion Hall. And before we get started with her, she's going to tell you a little bit about herself. But I just wanted to share with everybody that a couple of days ago, I don't know if you already heard, that Sinbad had a stroke, Sinbad the comedian. And we just wanted to send prayers and warm wishes out to him and his family and wish him a speedy recovery. So just wanted to say that to Sinbad, we love you, and we're hoping that you're going to be okay. All right. Before we get started on tonight's topic, 5 steps to wellness with our guest here, Dion Hall. Dion, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what you do, and why we should care about wellness?
Okay, all right. So thank you, first of all, for having me. This is wonderful. I can talk about wellness all day, all night. I love this stuff. I eat this stuff up. But a little bit about me. I do have a full-time corporate job. So wellness is my passion, and wellness is something that I've been doing for the last 7 years, to the point where I had to get formal. So I'm actually a certified holistic health coach. I'm also an expert in menopause. I work a lot with menopausal women. And of course, wellness plays a big role in that. I also help women with essential oils and incorporating those into their lives as a natural solution. I am the founder and owner of Dion's Wellness Wagon, which is a private wellness and coaching practice. And I'm also the creator of a 5-step hormone rebalance program. I know, Eldred, you talked about 5. I also have a 5-step program.
It seems like 5 is the magic number, I said, for everything.
5 is the magic number. And so tonight, Eldridge, you know that we're celebrating November. It's November. And
before you get started, Dion, I want to welcome my other sister here, Denise Highsmith. Thank you for joining us tonight, Denise.
Hi,
Denise is all the way from Texas.
Hi.
This is great. We're talking about it's Men's Health Month. It's Movember. For those of you who have just tuned in tonight, you're on the Voice of Randomness channel. Again, I'm Eldridge Alexander, and we're talking about men's health and wellness in general. And Dion Hall, who is our guest tonight, is just going to tell us the 5 steps that she wants to take to wellness. All right, take it away, Dion. Sorry.
All right.
Let everybody know Denise.
That's fine. So what I did was I came up with 5. Thank you. Came up with 5 building blocks. These are, I consider, like the foundation to good health. So if you think about when you're building a house, right? Like, what is the most important thing when you're building a house? The foundation. If you don't have a foundation, you don't have a house, right? You'll have a structure, but it won't last. It will just fizz away. The same thing with our health. If we don't have certain key fundamental building blocks in place, then you basically have a shell, right? You just kind of just existing. So I wanted to give 5 of the building blocks that I considered important. There are more, but these are the ones that I think are key. And so these are just not for men, but they're also for women. They're for everybody. But the reason why I wanted to start with them is because they'll play into men's health and some of the diseases that we're going to talk about that affects men disproportionately, particularly Black men.
Okay.
But they can be used for anyone.
All right.
Now, we all know that we're in an environment where it's more critical than ever to keep our immune system strong, right? Like with COVID. So we have to be able to build our immune system up in order to fight diseases, help our mental capacity. Eldred, we were talking about that earlier, that, you know, mental health is an important component, and people don't often think about that, right? They always just think about food and this is good health. Good health is more. And so if our mental health is not stable, we're not able to manage stress well, it's going to impact our entire health overall. So the first one is really nutrition. This is a big one, right? We should be eating to sustain our bodies and to nourish our bodies instead of just eating to eat. Because sometimes, you know, we just grab something because something is there for us to eat. But particularly as we get older, we want to be more conscious about what we eat and not just grab anything, because it does nothing for us as we get older, right? We're not 20 or 15 anymore where we can grab anything and be fine,
right,
with that.
but I wanted to just touch on that as we go through each point, because as we're in COVID and you think about the importance of nutrition, I want to see from the sisters, see if you guys weigh in, that if since COVID, have you found that there have been some unique challenges that you've been facing, you know, just to be able to manage nutrition? And if so, what are some things that you're doing to try to manage that? Because as Dion said, I find it a challenge for me. You know, I eat the same thing over and over and over. You know, it's a lot of lettuce in my life and a lot of tuna in my life. But what challenges are you ladies finding? Because we can't get out to shop the way we normally do, you know.
But even when you get out to shop, there really ain't a whole lot. There weren't a whole lot of options. But now that the stores are restocked, our options back. But the prices are so crazy. If you can't afford to eat it, you know, you go to the more unhealthy stuff, because a bag of apples is going to cost you, what, $5 now?
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Just the price to eat healthy. The price to eat healthy is just so much more expensive. I think that's why we always choose to go back towards the unhealthy options, because it's cheaper, especially when you're on a budget.
Right. But here's the thing, and I get that. I totally get it because it's real. But the thing, the disadvantage with that is that you pay the price later and it becomes much more costly. You know, that's the disadvantage and the downside to that. But I get it that people are on a budget and you have to stay within your budget, and you know, but I'll also say that you can also stay on a budget and help and eat relatively healthy if you're willing to cook. If you're willing to cook a pot of rice.
Okay.
Well,
yes. The pot thickens.
Well, Denise wants to say something.
I found that shopping for the week at the grocery, because I didn't want to eat out. I didn't want to be on the street picking up food because of COVID. Then, you know, cooking like 2 or 3 meats on the grill and having enough for 2 or 3 days. And then you do your sides each day, you know. Yes. So I have been, in the beginning of COVID, we were eating a lot better. I've kind of slacked off and, you know.
Yes. Yeah. That is true. And you can eat on a budget. You can roast the whole chicken and you can have that for several days. You can boil some rice and you have that for a whole lot of days. You can cook some potatoes and you have that for a whole day. And those are whole food, as opposed to picking up something, pizza or, you know, that sort of stuff. So you can eat on a budget, but I want people to be aware of the consequences of not eating well, right? There are big consequences, and it's called medications and price, and it's called poor health, and it's called not feeling good, which is to me a bigger price to pay than, you know, cooking, because you really can't go wrong with cooking. Yeah, so I think that's important. So sometimes if we concentrate on the simpler things, like for example, instead of spending money on juices, like I don't buy juice in my house anymore. I invested in a $500 water filter, and it's been the best money I have ever spent in my entire life, because now 4 of us are in this house and we've been drinking water. I no longer need to buy bottled water. So I save a ton of money there. I use my filtered water, and I don't buy juices. I just don't. So I save money there, and that's more nutritious to us, right? So there are simple things that we can do. Another thing, we could just keep the desserts out of the house and just reserve them for special occasions. They'll be so much more pleasurable at a birthday party or something like that. You know, just get into the habit of doing that a little bit more. So nutrition is totally important. Now, another aspect of nutrition.
Number two.
No, I'm not number 2 yet. Just one more part. Another aspect of that's important for nutrition is supplementation. Now, a lot of us think that we eat well because, you know, we eat a balanced diet, but the truth is Western world, we don't. We don't. To the best of us that we want to eat well, we don't. We are always on the run. We never have time to have 3 full square balanced meals. So supplementation becomes critical to us. And then even if someone says, you know what, I do eat well and I do eat balanced, the fact of the matter is our soil is being depleted, which is taking out a lot of the nutrients and minerals that we'd usually get from foods. So supplementation is critical. So I always recommend a high quality multivitamin that includes A, C, D. You want some omega fatty acids in there. Vitamin D is crucial for our immune system, especially if you live in an area where you're not getting a lot of sunlight.
Cold weather, yes.
Yes, and probiotic is really good for our stomach as well. So when you think about nutrition, it encompasses all of those different aspects. You're gonna say something?
No, I was just reiterating what you said about, you know, the vitamin D, especially up there up north where you don't see the sun a lot.
Yeah. Exactly. And we're indoors most of the time, right? Like I have to force myself to go outside now that I'm working from home. It's like I have to schedule it.
But we scheduling. We got to schedule everything there. All kinds of things. Schedule everything now.
We get bathroom breaks.
You don't put it on the couch. Don't happen.
That's right. All the lies of life are blurred.
Do you want me to move on, or if you had a question, you want to say something?
No, I was just going to say that sounds really great. You know, really focusing on nutrition and always remembering the supplements, because I think you're absolutely right. When people go to the gym and they have trainers and things like that, they tend to coach you about the supplements. I was just going to bring up one other supplement. If a person is iron deficient, is also something to keep in mind as you look at it. And then as you get older, particularly calcium becomes really, really important for bone density and things like that. So just to point those two things out, especially for people who you might be taking a multivitamin, but it may not have enough calcium, or it may not be a multivitamin with iron in it. So I just wanted to bring
No, thanks for saying that. And I didn't want to go too much into it because I know supplementation can be a whole nother topic. But since you went there, I can even throw in B12. The B vitamins are very important as well. Magnesium, especially for women, menopausal women, that's really awesome. So, you know, I want people just to know that supplementation is also important. And because you do have people who say, I don't need to take supplements, and it's so not true at all.
All right.
The second thing is movement. We gotta move. We gotta move. We gotta
move. Has been so hard.
Move. You know, otherwise our muscles we degenerate if we don't move. We were made to move. We weren't made to be. I mean, and you know. I know we all hear about the quarantine 15. In some cases, it's quarantine 30. And you know, it's been hard. I mean, I get it. And so if you didn't have a regular routine before COVID, you're like, oh God, you're in another zip code. So really starting to incorporate and just not do it because of visuals, you know, like I want to lose weight. It's great for our heart, you know, if you just do exercise to think about overall health and make that be your primary. But a lot of us are so motivated and driven by weight loss, and we'll kill ourselves for 2 months to get in a dress or our bathing suit, right?
Summer body.
Our body, and then after that, or a wedding, right? And then it's like boom. No, but it's for everyone. We've got to move. You know, a lot of us have jobs where we sit 8-10 hours a day, and if that's the case, you know, we can help ourselves a little bit. We can get up every couple of hours. We can walk around. Another option, you hear people talk about standing meetings. I invested in a standing desk when I started working at home because I'm like, my back was killing me. I couldn't do it anymore. I schedule my walks during lunch or after work. I do at least a mile or so. In addition, I have a regular workout routine that I had to put in when COVID started, because the first 2 months I'm like, this ain't gonna work.
Dia was like, I'm waking up to an extra thought, right? You're like, oh, watch it wiggle, see a jiggle, no.
We had to get it on, so I have a regular routine, and then I walk. So that's what I encourage people to start small. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It was like, I don't want to go to the gym, blah, blah. You live somewhere, and wherever you live, there's a street. Right? You can walk, and if you don't have a street, you got a parking lot. Yeah. I know you got a parking lot, right?
Yeah.
So people have no excuses. Parking lots, go to the track at a school nearby, the playground, you can walk around. You know, we could take the stairs a little bit more. We can park our cars a little bit further and stop looking for the handicap spot when you know you're handicapped. So there are a lot of things that we can do, right? To just make sure we get, and I know those the watches that, what do they call your steps? You get your steps in.
Get your steps, the Apple Watch. Yeah.
I mean, those have been helpful to a lot of people. So get your movement in is critical. It's a basic foundation. And then, you know, I want to just say, the next thing is, you want to be able to maintain an ideal body weight. And ideal body weight, for one, doesn't mean for all, right? There's no one size fits all when it comes to weight. We all can be size 2 or size 8. If you're size 10 and that is right for your body in terms of your height, your BMI, your body structure, your build, that's right for you. Don't try to be a size 6. If you know your natural feeling is an 8 or 10 or whatever it is, just as long as you're healthy and you are at an ideal weight, when you go to your doctor, they'll let you know whether you're over or under. So just be comfortable. But by doing the movement and your nutrition, that will help you to get to your ideal body weight.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's so important. It's so important because when you're talking about don't judge yourself by other people, because there's so many images coming into people's homes now, particularly with young women. Even young men, people suffer from body image issues. So I like the fact that you said whatever is right for you, and not everybody is a size 2. And so for people, some things about movement, you mentioned walking just around the neighborhood. Even if a person lives in an apartment complex, I was just gonna say, I remember we lived in an apartment complex out in Glendale, which is like, it's huge, you know, where it's like blocks and blocks and blocks of these condos. So you get out of your car and you walk the parking lots of that, you know, of that area, you know, that's walking area. And if it's adjoining a park, then now you really got it good, because you back in your car up and you go walk in the park. Or like you said, take the stairs instead of the elevator. Just standing up throughout the day is really good. So I said that even to people that want to work out, if you want to do some type of weight training in your house, people have bottled water in their house. You can use a couple of bottles of water. You can use soup, all types of things to get resistance training in. So like you said, it's a basic thing is you just have to move. You just got to get up. And the other thing is, because everybody has some type of, well, most people, I will say, have some type of streaming service. You can turn on music and get in, or they have all kind of workout videos free.
YouTube.
YouTube. Yes. All for different levels, different lengths, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 hour, whatever. If you want to do it, the resources are there. You just got to encourage each other, you know, because it's just not about cosmetics. It's more than that.
Yes.
And number 4 is adequate rest. And this is something that a lot of people take for granted. We say that it's overrated, but it's not. I know when I was in college, I used to pride myself on getting 4 hours sleep and 3 hours sleep, and you wear it like a badge of honor. What about none, right? And I'm like, no, it's not anything to brag about. We're actually doing ourselves a disservice when we do get enough rest. that's the time when your body is building up its immunity. It's building up its immunity in order to fight diseases. It's repairing damaged cells. During that time, the digestive process is taking place. During that time, you know, a lot of people who don't get enough sleep have all kinds of digestive issues. Detoxification is taking place at that time. Your liver is doing a lot of the filtering of foods that you take in as you digest. There are a lot of things you don't want, and that's why you pass it out. So if your body is not getting that chance to rest and repair, people will have IBS, different, bowels can't move, you know, all of this stuff gets backed up, and it's not good news when it is. So you really have to, it's a fundamental thing to get rest. And I know they say 8 hours rest is ideal, but again, that might not be ideal for everyone. Everyone knows some people are great on 6 hours, firing on all cylinders. That's what their body needs. For me, it's 7 hours. I know if I get 7 hours, I am great. Some people it's 8, some people it's 9. So again, I don't think anything less than 6 should be anything ideal, because that's just not enough time to have your body do all of the big jobs that it takes, that it's doing. And another thing about that is, and I struggle with this, is getting to bed on at a timely hour. Like after midnight, you know, studies have shown that midnight and on is a lot of the critical functioning takes place in your body. So getting into bed before midnight is really important to help us, especially with our hormones too. They do help our hormones to heal.
When you talk about rest and getting into bed, as they were talking about circadian rhythms, but I want to ask this question to you, Dartania, because you work a different type of a schedule. And it's similar to what my first husband used to work. He used, and I often look at studies around people who work, you know, like these 7 days on and then 7 days off. Do you ever find challenges to getting the rest that you need to have because of the schedule that you work? You work 13-hour days and then you have different off days. How does that impact your circadian rhythms, if anything?
It doesn't really. I'm usually in bed by 10:30 and up by 4 o'clock. On most days. Even when I go to bed at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm usually up by 4 or 5 o'clock. So my body just automatically wakes me up and tells me I need to get up and move around and do something. Then usually I can fall back asleep. But it doesn't really. I still go to bed at the same time. I still wake up at the same time, whether I'm at work or whether I'm off.
Yeah, because your body is programmed to that. It's like it has that internal memory that this is the time you go to bed and this is time you wake up. Yep. It's habits, right?
When I try to go to bed early, I find myself more tired than I did when I go to bed at my normal time. So I can say I want to go to bed at 9 o'clock and I go to bed at 9 o'clock and I'm up by midnight and I'm looking around thinking I'm late for work because I on the bed that early. Then I'm looking at the clock trying to figure it out. Like, wait, what time is it? Oh, I can go back to bed. I still got 3 hours of sleep. So I throw my whole body clock off when I try to go to bed earlier than what I'm used to going to bed at.
Right. And so that's your rhythm, and that's your rhythm that works for you.
How about you?
About the same. I'm a late nighter, so it'll be midnight, 1 o'clock, but I'm up at like 7, maybe 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock. So like what she said about 7 hours, 6, 7 hours sleep. But I'm a night person, so I'm up till midnight or 1 o'clock.
See, for me, I always that I have to lay down, but I could never ever work third shift. You know how my ex-husband, he used to could adjust. I never could work third shift. That's like a shift that my body would never ever adjust to. And you know, you ever notice how you have a certain time of day when you literally hit your stride? Anybody ever notice that? And if you get just the right amount of sleep, you get that certain start of the day. Like for me, it's like probably like 2:30 in the afternoon where I kind of like hit that stride where I can go like
wake up
7 hours.
Right.
A second wind, they call it.
Yeah. So, but usually, like you said, it's certain, and then it's weird too, because if you out doing certain things or if you're in another town, you ever notice that you can adjust your sleep habits to what you're doing. So like if you're in Vegas, you're going to adjust your sleep habits to Vegas.
And be up all night. Yeah.
Up all night.
Nightlife.
You're going to forget about what we just said, Dion, until you get off the plane and you back home and you be wondering what happened to the other 7 hours that you didn't sleep. Right. I wonder if
that's true. That's true. They're gone.
Yeah. And so I was thinking that now that people are quarantined and you more in the house, if people's sleep patterns are impacted, are they sleeping more? Are they sleeping less? I know for me, one thing that jacked me up is like on the weekend, if I lay down and take a nap, you know, like if you lay down at 2 in the afternoon because it's dark outside, D'Artagnan, you said like you wake up and you looking around. I look up and forget what room I'm in.
What day? What time of day is it? You think it's the next morning.
It was still dark. So you're right about.
I've had it happen.
About figuring out what time you're gonna lay down and try to be as consistent as possible.
Yeah.
What's the fifth thing that you wanted to tell us? So the fifth thing is self-care. And self-care means, and we talked about this earlier, first thing to me is you have to go to the doctor annually or as needed and get your check. And this is the struggle we have with men in not being willing to make it a regular routine thing for them. I know we as women, we go for our annual PAPs, we go for our annual, you know, all of this stuff and all of that. We do that judiciously, right? Most of us do that.
Right.
And for men, it's not the same. So that's an important part of self-care. Managing stress, again, that ties back into our mental health. We have to find ways to channel our stress, whether it's work stress, money stress, relationship stress, whatever stress that we feel, COVID stress, unemployment stress, we have to figure out ways to channel that stress. And whether that means spending time with good friends, boyfriends, girlfriends, hanging out at the barbershop, being with your friends or whomever, sharing, playing games, doing things that you enjoy, walking around. I love to recommend using essential oils as a regular part of your self-care, your rituals, diffusing them, applying them to your bodies, because they serve so many different purposes for mood or mental health, blood pressures, you know. So incorporating those, whether another thing is your spiritual practice is also important. If that means prayer or that means meditation, whatever it means to you, but being able to incorporate some kind of spiritual practice into your life is great. And so with that, I think we're segueing into some of the things that affect men. And Eldridge, you're going to talk about some of the statistics around men's health. And then I'll just focus on some of the diseases that are plaguing our men in large numbers.
Yeah, so one of the things that we really wanted to emphasize, and I brought up this site, which is the Men's Health site, and I just want men to understand that there's some startling statistics out here about the state of men's health. For example, men, the average life expectancy for men in the United States is 5 years less than women. And some things that contribute to that are, 6.7 or about 15 million American adults having depression. And we know that sometimes depression can lead to suicide. So we also have to be aware of behavioral changes that we might see in men. And especially the reason why we really want to have this conversation, because women are allies of men. We have everything with regard to their best interests at heart. So we'll be remiss in our duties as their partners and as allies if we did not share information that we have and just reminders of some of the things that impact their lives, because those things impact us. As Deanna alluded to, we've all been impacted possibly by a man in our life who's possibly been diagnosed with cancer, as a survivor of cancer, or who might be going through it, because 1 in 2 men is going to be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. I lost my husband to cancer. I've had other family members who've been survivors of cancer, and I have friends I know who have survivors and might be going through things. And we'll talk a little bit about what we can do to make sure we're taking care of our men and that they're taking care of themselves. The other thing is about 1/3 or more than 1/3 of adults, or 34.9% in the United States, are obese or overweight. So what Dion was talking about, some things around nutrition and movement. It's important that you manage weight. Talking about the proper screenings that people want to have, and some of the top killers, especially in Black men, and the fact that 12.1% of men 18 years and over are in fair or poor health due to some of the things that we have here below. You know, we're talking about the state of men's health here, and as allies, we understand that there's a lack of awareness and understanding on the health issues men face. So as part of Voices Randomish, what we do is we educate, we engage in dialogue to enlighten, you know, and hopefully inspire and uplift you to go and do things that normally would help to save your life. We want men to openly discuss their health issues, because we know that they won't necessarily do it because of some stigmas that are associated with men even having any type of a crisis, reluctance to take that action by men because when they don't feel mentally or physically or mentally well, because they don't want to admit it. Like you talked about, engaging in positive physical activities as opposed to men engaging in risky activities that threaten their health, stigmas again surrounding mental health, and then the fact that men are 24% less likely to women than to have visited their doctor in the past year. So Dion, let's talk a little bit about a couple of issues, especially healthcare issues. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment so we can just talk a little bit about a couple of screenings and some statistics or things that impact Black men of color in particular, if you want to just go into that a little bit.
Sure. So as Eldred mentioned, it's Movember, and Movember is an annual event that involves where they grow a mustache for the month, just to raise awareness to men's health, because it is underrated. Men, I mean, they don't think it's an issue until it's an issue. And so as allies, as Eldred mentioned, we have to help to raise them up to say this is important. There shouldn't be stigma, and whatever stigmas there are, we should try to, I mean, this whole awareness of Men's Month is really saying forget the stigmas that are there. It's way more important than that. There's no shame in going to your doctor and getting your physical or your annual or whatever it is. Finding out sooner than later can save your life, right? So there's no shame to that at all. Now, I want to talk a little bit about some of the top health issues that are affecting men, particularly Black men. Historically, the life expectancy of Black men consistently lag behind that of their white counterparts. The leading cause of death among Black men include heart disease, stroke, diabetes, prostate cancer, and other cancers as well, kidney diseases, lower respiratory diseases, and homicide. And that's one that we hardly ever talk about, right? The homicide, but it also is pretty high amongst Black men. So I want to just focus on some of the key ones, more the metabolic syndromes, the heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, and stroke. Heart disease, that's the #1 killer of all Americans, closely followed by stroke. And the risk of getting these diseases are even higher when it comes to the Black community. But the good news is we can do something about it, right? It's simple. Some of the foundational building blocks that I talked about earlier is the first start.
Right.
And so getting into the habit of practicing those lifestyle changes, nutritional changes, and movement can really help us to protect ourselves against these diseases that plague us. Now, heart disease, as you all know already, it's built up of plaque within the artery, and it prevents blood flow from flowing freely to the heart. So that's when the whole movement comes in, and it becomes very important that we're doing that, and the diet becomes very important as well. Now, some of the risk factors for heart disease include the high LDL cholesterol, and that's the bad one, and then the low HDL, which is the good cholesterol. High blood pressure is a bad sign. Diabetes, of course, smoking, overweight, and obesity. And yes, we talk about what you can do about that. Did you want to share something there, Eldridge?
No, I'm just gonna wait until you're done. I just want to make sure that we have the numbers up.
Okay, sure. So the next thing that plague our Black men is high blood pressure or hypertension. And many people know this as the silent killer, right? It's very prevalent amongst our community, especially our men. And it's high blood pressure in Blacks is amongst the highest in the entire world. And the other unfortunate thing is that as Black men, particularly, we develop it at an earlier stage than our white counterparts, meaning younger. It starts at a younger age than our white counterparts. And some of the risk factors of high blood pressure is a risk factor for heart disease and stroke, as I mentioned before. And so sometimes when people are affected by high blood pressure and they end up getting a stroke, they don't even know what is happening. And that's why it's called the silent killer, because sometimes if there are no warning signs, there are no symptoms. So it's important to know your numbers when it comes to where your high blood pressure is. Knowing your numbers is very important, and diabetes just plays right into that again, right? It's about your weight, it's about your nutrition, it's about your movement, and we absolutely can do something about it. Type 2 diabetes is most prevalent among Black men and the Black community in general. Black adults are 60% more likely than their counterparts to be diagnosed with diabetes. But, you know, Eldridge, you talked about this a little bit, that we ignore, particularly Black men. We don't want to go get ourselves checked, right?
Right.
And a lot of times we ignore the warning signs. In Black men, one of the biggest warning signs, and Black women too, is increase in weight, especially around your midsection.
Yeah.
Midsection. Men just chalk it up to, I'm just gaining a little weight. But that's the first sign that things are going south. Right? So you don't want to ignore those, because belly fat is a very dangerous thing. Even for women, it is also. So you want to be able to have those things in check. So we want to be able to keep our weight, maintain our weight, regular exercise, eating healthy, reducing the sodium in our diets, and limit the amount of alcohol that we drink if you do. And if you smoke, you want to consider quitting that or even cutting back on caffeine. And the last thing I want to talk about is prostate cancer. And I know you do have some stats on that,
yes.
Eldridge.
Yes, let me get those statistics up, because prostate cancer is a big one, especially in the Black community, because Black men die from prostate cancer probably at almost 5 times more of a health rate than you know, their white and Asian counterparts. So it's the most commonly diagnosed cancer in the United States in men. More than 1.3 million men are diagnosed each year. And they said that the fact is early detection. So here's the key information, if you guys can see, and this is what I really wanted to bring this out. So they say that when you're 50, you need to have the conversation with your doctor about the PSA testing. The PSA is the antigen that shows up in the prostate when there are the antibodies there, meaning that there's a problem with the prostate, and there should be very few in there. But the PSA, if the antigens are high, then usually it's a sign that the person might either have a prostate irritation or prostate cancer. If you're African American, they say to do it at 45. And if there's a history of prostate cancer, do it at 45, regardless of what your race is. Here are the real key things that we really want to leave, especially Black men, here with tonight. If you watch this broadcast, please know that you're at risk of developing prostate cancer as you age. That doesn't mean that it's a disease that only affects old men. It's the second most cancer in men. Men who are African American and men who have a family history, or brother or father, are 2.5 times or 2.5 times more likely to get it. If you're 50, talk to your doctor about the testing. If you're an African American male, please, again, like we said, go start that conversation at 45. If you have a brother or father, 45. Routine blood test, the prostate antigen concentration in the blood, it's the primary method for testing the cancer. And again, get to the doctor, ask about the PSA, and then catch it earlier. So what else did you want to add to this? Anybody else on here want to add anything about prostate cancer and the fact that, you know, we know that it's the big one? I'm just going to leave the symptoms up here just for a moment while we just talk a little bit.
Yeah. So Eldred, I think you covered everything that I wanted to say that's important, right? But I also want to say it's treatable. It's one of the types of cancer that is so treatable, because a lot of times if you are getting your routine visits or if you're getting your check, it can, and it's caught, it's treatable, right? So you even have that second chance as opposed to some other kind of cancer that's internal, like lung or pancreatic, or, you know, one of the internal organs. Prostate cancer is totally treatable, and our science and medical help has been getting so much better now that men are living longer after being treated with prostate cancer. So that should be encouraging for all men and motivate you to make sure you check and know your numbers.
And that's the important part. That's the important part, is to get to the doctor. Stop avoiding that.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And the last thing that we wanted to say to men before we wrap up, especially our Black men, we really encourage you to talk to, like we said, your mate is your ally, your partner, whoever that partner is. It doesn't matter who that person is is your ally. If you don't have a person, you don't want to talk to your significant other, talk to your good friend. But one of the other places that we know that Black men often frequent is the barbershop, right? And the barbershop is still that place, that safe haven where we know men of color for generations and decades, and even some women go to share stories about what's going on with them, and also to be mentored, to mentor, and to give advice. And that hasn't changed. Even on this Men's Health website, there's stories here from different men in the barbershop, but there's one here that I just wanted to point out that it took a lot, where these men were in here and they were actually talking about things like depression and financial spheres that they had and everything. So I say that to say that if you don't have someone that you really feel like you can talk to at home, I know you can go to the barbershop and talk to your homies. So don't forget they're still out there.
That's right.
So that's what we wanted to say. Deanna, any closing thoughts before we wrap up for tonight? It was worth the time that we spent to have this conversation, I think.
Well, yes, it was a very good conversation.
Yeah, so I just want to say prevent is always better than cure. And health is something that we can't put a price on, because we live in this body here, right? This is the only house we're ever going to live in. And so if we're not taking care of it, we're not going to get a second chance to live in another house.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight on Voices Randomish. We hope that you enjoyed this segment on men's health and 5 strategies or tips that you can use. And what did you call them, Dion? Building blocks?
Foundational building blocks.
That you can use, whether you're a man, woman, what have you, to make yourself be that much more healthy. And we want to thank you and invite you to go out to Voices Randomish, subscribe to our channel, because after all, we're the only channel that's asking you, what's your frequency? We want to thank you all for tuning in tonight to Voices Randomish, and we want you to go on and subscribe to our channel, like, comment, and share, because after all, we're the only channel that wants to know,
what's your frequency?